Okay, very well. And we welcome also a few new members. Elise Swanson is joining Coastal and will be part of the planning committee as well. Anybody else, Diana, that you mentioned that was joining in?
It was no, there is another new person on Coastal, but I don't see them here.
Okay, very well. Well, we will get started.
Here.
Okay, great. So Robin Rudisill is joining us from Coastal as well.
And Alan Franz is also here from Coastal.
Ah, very good. Not too many people from Central yet, but hopefully they'll join in.
Crack the whip, Javier. Come on.
They're gonna get a timeout. Anyway, we'll get started with our presentation. So our first item is the presentation for plans for updating the San Pedro zoning code. And we have a couple of people here from the LA County, LA City Planning Department, Elisa Gordon and Ruben Caldwell.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ruben Caldwell. I'm a senior city planner, and I oversee the South LA and Harbor LA sections of community planning. Elisa Gordon is the project manager for the San Pedro new zoning update project. She has not been able to join the call for some reason, so I'm not sure what has happened, and she may be having some technical difficulties. So I'm wondering if we could either be placed later on the agenda for her to join, or perhaps we may just want to reschedule because she has a PowerPoint slide presentation and she wants to take you through kind of all the workings of this project. But as I say, I do not see her on this call yet, and I have reached out to her.
There is someone who has their hand up who wants to talk, so let's see if that happens to be her. Hello?
Yes, I've joined the meeting. I'm sorry for the delay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Who is this?
Sorry, this is Elisa Gordon from
Oh,
planning.
great.
Not
Go
sure.
ahead.
I'm not sure if I don't have an option to have my video on, so I'm just trying to understand what's
You
happening
need to be
here.
promoted as a panelist.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Okay.
We see you now, but you are muted.
You see her? I don't see her yet.
Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
yeah,
Oh, there she is.
I'm going
we
to
can,
put my
we
name.
can see you and hear you now.
I need to promote her again to a co-host. If I can find her.
Just right
She's
there.
got,
There she is.
yes.
Co-host. No, it just kept, my thing kept changing. Every time I'd get to her, someone else would sign on, I think. Okay. Alyssa, did you get promoted to a co-host? Okay.
I
Okay.
think so.
Okay, because I understand you have a presentation that you want to share with us.
Yes. So shall we begin?
Yes, go ahead,
Okay.
please.
Okay, let me pull up my screen, please. Just a second here. Share screen. Here we go. Sorry about that. There we go. Can everyone see my presentation?
No,
Nope.
What's going on here?
Okay,
There we go.
Perfect.
Sorry about that. Can you see my presentation at this moment?
yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so good evening, members of the San Pedro Neighborhood Council Land Use Committee. My name is Elisa Gordon, and I am a planner with Los Angeles City Planning, and I am joined this evening by my supervisor, Ruben Caldwell. We're here this evening to provide an overview of a new project that the City Planning Department has initiated regarding San Pedro. The project is called the San Pedro Zoning Code Update, or San Pedro ZCU. Tonight, we will cover the planning background in San Pedro, the relationship between the San Pedro Community Plan and the project, the new zoning code for the City of Los Angeles, the San Pedro CPIO, or Community Plan Implementation Overlay, and resources available to you, as well as contact information. Turning to our planning background slide, here we have the policy background that is relevant in the plan area and to the project at hand. As you may already know, the Planning Department's General Plan Framework element is a comprehensive, long-range document that contains policies and programs for the development of the city, and it also responds to state and federal mandates to plan for the city's future. It's the city's strategy for long-term growth and guides the community plan update programs. Framework provides the underlying principles for the community plans. Next, we have the San Pedro Community Plan. It established the zoning and general plan land uses in San Pedro that we have on the books today, and it directed growth towards commercial corridors and preserved single-family neighborhoods. As part of this plan update, a tool called the CPIO, Community Plan Implementation Overlay District, was established as a zoning component to implement the community plan's goals. It provides regulations for commercial and industrial properties in San Pedro, as well as many of the multifamily neighborhoods proximity to downtown San Pedro. The Mello Act is a state law that aims to preserve and increase the overall number of residential dwelling units and affordable units in the California coastal zone. The City Planning Department has proposed an ordinance that would strengthen and clarify the review process for projects subject to this ordinance, which also pertains to many properties in San Pedro within the coastal zone. At this time, that ordinance is in the adoption phase with the Planning and Land Use Committee of LA City Council. Finally, this brings us to the project at hand. In the green box, the San Pedro ZCU. The project was initiated by the Planning Department to apply the city's new zoning code and its new zoning system in San Pedro. The project at hand would not involve the framework element or the Mello Act ordinance, but instead it is more focused on zoning, and it's related to the community plan and the CPIO outlined in yellow. So the project is the first of its kind, and it's in tandem with what we call the Harbor LA plan updates, which are the Wilmington, Harbor City, and Harbor Gateway plan updates neighboring to San Pedro. The Harbor LA plans are utilizing the new zoning code and are seeking to move into the adoption phase in 2023, with San Pedro ZCU to follow. Once adopted, the harbor area would all be under the new zoning code and the system. The San Pedro Community Plan was last adopted in 2017. Prior to that adoption, the previous community plan was adopted in 1999. The 2017 plan shapes the future growth of San Pedro for the next 20 years. The plan includes a community plan text document, which outlines land use goals, policies, and programs. It also established a land use map with general plan land use designations and zoning designations, which establish the regulations that development is subject to. The CPIO was a key part of that plan update. It's a zoning tool that implements the community plan by providing specific development regulations that are context sensitive and provide more specifications than what we would find in standard zoning. The task at hand with the zoning code update project is to implement the 2017 community plan while simultaneously adopting the new code and its zoning system in San Pedro. There are many benefits to utilizing the new zoning system. In the next slide, I'll provide an overview of the new zoning system that is a key part of the new code. The new zoning code's zoning structure can be described as a modular system. So the 5 core modules are form, frontage, development standards, use, and density. The first 3 modules are related to the built environment, while the last 2 modules are focused on the activities of the space or development. Within each module, there are a variety of districts to choose from that together will make up the zoning. Form districts can influence things like size and width of buildings. Frontage districts influence appearance from the street, such as windows or ground story height. And next we have development standards. These standards can focus on elements around the building, such as trees, lighting, or parking. The next two modules are very straightforward. Use districts determine what uses would be allowed, and density districts determine the number of units allowed. Previously, I spoke about the San Pedro CPIO, which was a new zoning tool that provides specialized zoning regulations in San Pedro beyond what's required by the code. Those regulations live within the San Pedro CPIO district plan, which is a planning document that includes all of its regulations. Under the new zoning system, the development standards of the CPIO do not need to live outside of the zoning itself. The zoning systems has 5 modules: form, frontage, standards, use, and density. And they provide an opportunity for the CPIO standards to fit into the zone string. So within the new with the new zoning system in place, the FAR and height maximums of the underlying zones would be in form. We could find the requirements from the CPIO that specify a figure for ground floor height or percentage of window transparency in the frontage module. And under the standards module, we'll be able to find regulations from the CPIO concerning signage, lighting, or vehicular access. The CPIO involves specific use permissions, which would be under the use module. And finally, the density allowed per each zone would be under the density module. The benefits to utilizing the new zoning system would be to provide clarity in what would be allowed to all interested parties, including owners, developers, and members of the public. These interested parties would not need to track down a separate planning document or need to interpret language from the document, but they could instead look to the new zoning and the code, which would be providing more clarity and specifications. It also intends to provide more efficiency when projects are by right and they conform to zoning and building regulations. And these projects may be able to skip through the planning review and be implemented by the Department of Building and Safety. Last spring, a project website was built out to host future updates on this project. You could visit the project website at planning.lacity.org/San Pedro-ZCU, or by navigating to the San Pedro Community Plan page and clicking on the orange launch button that will bring you to the site. Currently, we have a project fact sheet document provided on the materials tab of the website, and we also have a Spanish language version of that document available as well. The fact sheet provides a summary of the project with background information, and we will continue to update the website with more materials as they become available. Next, we have the project process timeline, which is provided in infographic form. It's the same one as that we have on the website. We're currently in the zoning development phase of the project. We're seeking to provide additional materials to the public towards the end of the year. And we'd like to take the project through the adoption phase beginning in the year 2023. So finally, this brings me to my last slide for this evening. So please feel free to contact me with any questions that you may have on the project. And if you would like to sign up for email updates, you can do so on the contact page of the website. And thank you very much for the opportunity to provide this briefing. And I welcome any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Elisa. We'll take some comments or questions from the committee members. Well, okay. I see Robin Rudisell has a question.
Okay, I'm just trying to visualize this, and are you basically saying you're going to take what's now the CPIO and any LAMC regulations and reorganize it into these 5 categories, and it'll be the new zoning regulations?
Yes, we're currently working on doing that for the CPIO. So we're looking at every single standard in the CPIO and looking to see how it's going to fit into the new system. And we intend to carry forward the other zones outside of the CPIO in San Pedro into a new zoning system as well.
Okay, so you're not really going to change any regulations per se. You're just going to reorganize them into these 5 categories, or will you be changing some of the actual standards or policies as well?
I think that we're going to seek to carry them forward as much as possible. There may be slight changes based off of how the new zoning code is written, but we will have that information available to the public.
Thank you.
We have a question from Gregory Ellis.
Yes, thanks for the presentation. Can you scroll back to the page that has the website for the new ZCU? Okay, thank you. And would you be willing to share this presentation with the committee members?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you.
Pat Name, do you have a question?
I do. What's going to happen between now and 2023? Will you be basically applying this format and evaluating any project development applications in city planning?
So between now and 2023, it's really just working through creating the new zones. Although we're carrying forward most of the existing regulations, it's a rather complicated process because of the new zoning is just so different. And we're working with a team in the planning department who's also advising planners that are working on other community plan updates as well. Whether we would be reviewing other projects during that time, I don't believe so, because I think we want to keep the 2017 community plan update as our guide for this project. So we wouldn't be seeking to deviate from that plan update and the CPIO that is part of that update.
Are you going to incorporate things like the density bonuses, SB 9 and other laws in your regulations or modules, or are those going to be separate and still apply to the overall scheme?
Yeah, as state laws, those would, basically just live on their own. We're really just translating the existing CPIO, the existing zoning, to the new system. That's really the spirit of this project.
Thank you.
Noel Gold, do you have a question?
Thanks. Thank you for the presentation, Elisa. I have a couple of questions. First off, where does the City Planning Commission's role fall in with this new rezoning?
So the City Planning Commission would be, once we complete this project and we've had a public hearing, they would be reviewing it. So we would go to CPC and they would recommend whether or not it would move forward, or if there might be any changes. So it would just be the normal process for any policy program in this city planning department to go through.
So, well, and also, thank you for that. And then also, for example, people are perhaps coming in and wanting to design a project, and maybe they want to go above and beyond what's permitted in the CPIO, for example, or the community plan, or any of the other plans that might be on the books. And so then they'll take those to the City Planning Commission for those, for example, off-menu entitlements. When the requirements that are articulated in the CPIO are moved into this new zoning code, one of the things you mentioned was kind of streamlining by right projects and to have them go through more in a ministerial kind of way through Department of Building and Safety. When the requirements in the CPIO are bundled into this new zoning plan, do those regulations and requirements become stronger, or are they just as easy to sort of, I don't know, for lack of a better phrase, throw out the window as soon as an organization like the CPC decides that, oh yeah, it's fine to just go above and beyond what these regulations that have been worked on so long with the community and the city are exceeded? Is it going to be just as easy to do that, or does the CPIO requirements, do the CPIO requirements become stronger in this new zoning code?
So I think there are going to be standards that are going to be stronger. For example, the CPIO plan text, some of the development standards are not very specific. And in the new zoning code, we'll have to designate, like, we'll have to say X number of feet or X percentage of transparency. We have to provide numerical values that don't exist today. And currently it would be like up to interpretation of a planner. So in that sense, we will have standards that are going to be stronger, and based off it being so clear, it would not need planning review, because building and safety employee would be able to see that numerical value, and it would be very clear, how to interpret it. So that's the goal with the new zoning system. We are working on that project, so as it rolls out, I'd like to share updates, but there may be some standards that maybe are redundant and aren't carried forward. So it's a mixed bag, but mostly I think a lot of the key standards are going to become stronger.
Okay, thanks. And finally, is there a public review process where the public is going to be able to provide input that you can incorporate into this, or is this something that just planning is sort of moving ahead with, and when they're done, they're going to say, this is what you're getting?
Well, I think that we currently are working on an internal process because it's quite a challenge to bring in the new zoning, the CPIO standards into the new zoning code. But once that's updated, that information is going to be available on our website for public review. And we would have a public hearing prior to moving forward with adoption. And Ruben, if you'd like to provide any more comments, feel free.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we would be bringing this through the standard adoption process. But yes, it is more of a internal project at this point. It's really just, really finding the right zoning and applying those standards. But yes, there would be this opportunity through the public hearing and CPC and other hearings.
Great, thank you.
James Campo, you had a question, and then Diana.
Could you go back to the window you had just before about the heights of the building and the, it was on the far left, I believe. No, that wasn't it. It was 4 or 5 boxes. It was just the one before you. Yes. The form districts, how large buildings can be influencing factors like buildings width and size. Can you elaborate just slightly on that a little bit more, on that wording?
Yeah, so FAR, floor area ratio, would be in the form district, as would be like the max height, I believe. And if there would be a regulation that would limit or indicate the width, it would be included there. We also have additional materials on the new zoning code on the planning department website, which may provide like more visual aids or more specificity that you might want to review.
Thank you very much.
Diana? You're muted, Diana.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I really see how complicated it's going to be to translate the existing zoning into the new zoning. And you've laid out very nicely for us how to go from the CPIO into the new zoning. I'm wondering if there will be a similar chart at some point in time, kind of laying out how the existing zoning gets translated into the new zoning. So that's part one of my question.
Absolutely. I think I just wanted to share about the CPIO and how it fits into the new zoning, because, well, this is what we're tackling on this project up front. It is the most difficult part of the project because the CPIO has the most complex zoning. So I felt it was appropriate for me to share that with you today. But you know, as we continue on with the project and we have more information about what the new zones are going to look like outside of the CPI, I would be happy to come back with another presentation to indicate what that new zoning would look like.
Great, that answers my second question. And then I just, if you send me this presentation, I will send it out to the committee members.
Great, I will do that.
Linda, do you still have a question?
Well, I came in late, I'm sorry, and this may not be appropriate to this particular discussion. I'm in the Central Neighborhood Council in San Pedro, and one of the problems we have is that the developers are not taking any interest in the area of appearance in where they're landing. And we have about 6 apartment buildings, pretty much all look the same. They're contemporary. There's nothing particularly wrong with the look of the building, except they're landing in an area that has an interesting historic history. And is there any way that gets into the frontage districts, or is that something different altogether?
So the project scope is really to carry forward the community plan that was adopted and the CPIO. So we're not currently looking to add additional design standards to other parts of San Pedro. But I do hear that that might be of interest to the community. But currently that's not part of the project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional questions out there? I don't see any hands up. Oh, Vicky Market.
Oh, Javier, this is just for you. I think we have a couple of board members that are in the attendees, need to be promoted.
Okay. Diana, could you help with that?
Yeah, I'll put that. In the meantime, I did have a follow-up question to what Elisa just said, which is if we did want to add new standards, what would be the process?
Well, if you have information that you'd like to send me, we'd be happy to take a look at it to see if it's within our scope. So if you would like to follow up with an email, with more information, I'd be happy to review it.
I don't see anybody that I recognize as a committee member that hasn't been promoted. So can you tell me who needs to be promoted?
I see Emma Ralt and Doug.
Is Emma a committee member?
Not currently.
No. But we are going to promote her to give her a talk, but and
Okay,
you also have a hand up from a call-in listener.
Yes, person with the 1310 number, ending in 665. We can't hear you.
Frank.
Oh, Frank.
Javier, it's me, Frank.
Okay, Diana, so that would be Frank.
That's Frank.
Incognito.
Yeah, Yeah, I couldn't get on with the agenda Zoom information, so I've been listening on the phone.
Okay,
Oh,
interesting.
I can't
We'll
figure out how,
promote you.
I can't promote him, I don't think.
Not with the phone.
Not with the phone, okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'll listen.
But we know you're
Okay.
there, okay.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, I don't see any other further questions. Thank you for the presentation, both Elisa and Ruben. Thank you, and I'm sure we will be following up on the progress of this and hopefully participate in the input part of the process.
Thank you very much for having us this evening.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks again. Let's see. Very good. We're gonna move on to our second item on the agenda, and that's update. Is Ryan Ferguson here?
Hey, Javier, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. So I do apologize. I don't have a formal presentation for the joint committee, but I just wanted to come to you guys with a couple updates on, potential changes to some of the off-street LADOT parking lots in downtown San Pedro. With the loss of LADOT lot 641, this is the one that is the Link Housing Development. It's located at 456 West 9th Street. Our office internally looked at, a couple of other possible locations where some of the LADOT lots need some TLC, including restriping and resurfacing. What we're looking at possibly implementing is adding meters to LADOT lot 647. This is the one that is pretty much directly across the street from the old lot 641. And what that would entail potentially is, keeping consistency with, the hours and rates in downtown San Pedro. With the other LADOT lots that do have meters and the on-street meters, it would be potentially Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., 2 hours max at a rate of 50 cents per hour. So we are exploring that option. The reason being this would encourage turnover of parking spaces, especially at lot 647. I have been out there and have noticed that there are certain vehicles that do not move whatsoever. Our office has received a couple of calls with concerns about that. As you know, implementing this, again, would encourage turnover of these parking spaces and allow for individuals to park in these off-street lots to patronize the businesses in downtown San Pedro. In addition to lot 647, we are also looking at, I believe it's lot 699. No, I'm sorry, not 699. It is LADOT lot 766. This is the one directly to the west of the Croatian Cultural Center, with and possibly implementing a similar structure there. And again, keeping with the consistency of the parking rates and hours in downtown San Pedro. I need to talk about improvements, right? Yeah, resurfacing and restriping. Did I say that?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Ryan, I have a question. What is being done about, as you say, enforcement for turnover of the parking spaces? It seems like there hasn't been much surveillance, and people obviously abuse that. And I use lot 684 and noticed that some afternoons it's impossible to get a parking space, and even though my office is there, I can't leave and then come back and find the spot.
Yeah, so typically if there are issues with the turnover of spaces, people that are not feeding the meter or staying longer than the maximum allotted in their space, would be a call to LADOT parking enforcement. With most city departments nowadays and dealing with, over the past couple of years, a large number of city employees retiring, parking enforcement is severely short-staffed. Our office will reach out to our contacts at LADOT Parking Enforcement if there are specific areas of concern and ask them to go out there, as soon as they can and address them. Lately, we've received quite a few calls about abandoned vehicles just on streets in town, in the district, and not so much as, we've gotten a few calls about, cars staying longer in these lots, but their focus nowadays has been on more of the enforcement side of abandoned vehicles on city streets in front of people's houses. And we're talking about vehicles that haven't moved in months. So, I mean, typically that's what the process would be a call to LADOT Parking Enforcement. I know that they do go out when they can and, we'll check the meters and the lots, but oftentimes it's difficult for them to make a return trip.
Elise Swanson, you have a question?
I do. Thank you, Javier. Ryan, the PBIT and the chamber have been talking about parking management plans and looking at our assets, and two issues that parking consultants have discussed with us over the years is, in order to really turn over our parking for our retail in our restaurants, we need to increase the cost of parking. The cost is way too low, and that's why employees and others are feeding the meters all day and they're not moving vehicles. I'm not making that recommendation at this time. We're just saying that's something that consultants have brought up to us when they've looked at our parking situation. And the other issue we're starting to talk about is maybe in the downtown area, increasing the enforcement on the meters to 9 p.m. at night, so we get more turnover for the restaurants. Because what appears to be happening, that's being anecdotally reported to the chamber and PBID, is we have many residents from the apartment buildings that are coming in and taking that parking that we hope would be available for restaurants and others. And because it's either so cheap or the enforcement stops at 6 p.m., they're parking there and then leaving in the morning. So those are two things that I just wanted to raise that different consultants have brought up to us, and just didn't know what it would take on the city side to maybe initiate a study, an official study with LADOT, maybe to look at some recommendations along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. I'll touch on, I think the time, in terms of the time limit in other parts of the city of Los Angeles, I believe the max that they go up to is 8 p.m. And there are, certain areas where it's much more dense, like downtown LA, Hollywood, Koreatown. I believe they do, especially for the meters and the LADOT lots. I think they go from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. either Monday through Saturday, Monday through Sunday. And especially in those areas, I think the rate of parking over there can be anywhere from $1 an hour to $4 an hour. It just depends. I think downtown LA is probably the most expensive. And I think they do come with a 2-hour maximum as well. But I mean, that's something, that could be considered as well in the downtown area, maybe at a future meeting. But I do agree. I think we are overdue for, a new LADOT parking study, especially for downtown San Pedro and Wilmington. The last time that was conducted was right after Councilman Buscaino took office in January or February of 2012.
Right.
And that found at that time, I think we reduced the rates from $1 an hour to 50 cents an hour. That report found that I think District 15 ranked 15 out of 15 in terms of parking revenue for the city of Los Angeles from the meters and the off-street lots. So we were able to justify reducing the cost. But if you don't mind, can you share those, that report or those reports with Allison and myself?
So I have various studies that have been conducted over the years with inventories and recommendations. And I will see what I can pull and forward over to you. But I think you're right. I mean, I think maybe they were around the time that the council member first came into office. But yeah, thanks, Ryan.
That's the one that I remember. I think that was the last time that was conducted, was a little over 10 years ago.
And it's not, it's really about turning over the parking, street parking that's closest to the restaurants and retail. And then, having the lots be less expensive. so that, your premium parking turns over more. So there's a strategy. It's not really about revenue. It's about churning or turning over the parking that's on 6th and 7th.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we've heard consistently about, some of the DOT lots, and like Javier brought up, the turnover, being able to, park there, and then, after a couple hours, have to park somewhere else, etc. So, any other questions?
Frank, is that you had a question?
I have a question, Javier.
No, I didn't have any questions.
Oh, okay. James Campo.
Ryan, are you familiar with parking enforcement for people sitting in their car with meters expired or anything like that?
I am not. I honestly, I don't know for sure. I don't think it matters if you're sitting in your vehicle. If the meter's expired, you could still be subject to receiving a citation, but that's something I can bring up to our contacts at parking enforcement. We do meet with them, with LADOT, every other week, and I can ask our liaison with parking enforcement about that if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you, because just for confrontation type issues nowadays, parking enforcement are reluctant to give tickets if people are sitting in their vehicles or camping in their vehicles or something like that. So that would be the question. Do they call LAPD to come and assist them, or what? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, when next we meet with them, I'll ask about individuals residing in their vehicles. I do know that when LAPD does make contact with individuals residing in their vehicles, they do point them to the safe parking sites that we do have in the council district, one of them being the San Pedro Municipal Building parking lot. That is a safe parking site for individuals residing in their vehicles from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily, and there are services and amenity or facilities on site for individuals to utilize.
Thank you, because it's like double parking. It's against the law, but people will double park and hang out and rap in the street. So it happens where people just sit in their cars because parking enforcement is kind of few and far between. So that's why it's abused as well. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, James. Any other questions?
I think I have my hand up. No, I don't.
Now you do.
No, I do. Yeah, I had a question, and I don't know if this is for Ryan or Elise, and it has to do with the status of getting parking in the Topaz building.
Ryan, do you want me to take that one?
If you don't mind, I don't believe I'm up to date on those conversations.
So today, the council office, the chamber, and other interested parties did have a discussion with the ownership of the Topaz building regarding public use of the structure for public parking. Those conversations will continue as we work out various issues related to security, in and out access, and other factors. But what came out of that meeting that I was very encouraged about is we're going to look at implementing a restaurant valet system. And so I will be reaching out. I know it's something that Nima at La Boca Felice has been publicly talking about, but the chamber and the PBID will be reaching out to area restaurants and other businesses, maybe Grand Annex when they have performances, to see if they would be interested in participating. I don't have details yet on costs. We're going to be meeting with some consultants in Laz Parking to see how it could be structured, but ownership's very open to that. So we're going to have continued discussions, and I think it would be great for the downtown if we can get this implemented. But it will be paid parking. It will be a higher rate than the meters, just because we have to support the valet staff that's working at the Topaz and in the district. So, but more to follow on that, Diana. We'll have probably in the next 30 days have a better update for everyone.
Super. And then isn't there some about parking now for business people that work in businesses?
So we have, correct, there is a parking permit program that Topaz has implemented with the PBID and the chamber. And there are monthly parking passes available to area employers and businesses. It's $65 a month, and that's all day parking. And I think they shut the structure, I'm not sure, for that program somewhere between 8 and 9 p.m. But thank you, Diana, that is available. And we have promoted that, but we need to do a better job.
Great.
Thanks, Elise. Let's see, Padney.
Yeah, Elise, maybe you know this, the public parking that's in the Center City lofts is supposed to be open from certain hours, I think, and I don't know what they are. They're not posted, but there's several times on like First Thursday and so forth that we park in there, and then the gates have been closed like around 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night even. What do you know about
So Pat, that is an ongoing discussion that we've had with the HOA at the Center Street lofts. You're right, those 40 parking spaces are public. They were funded at the time with CRA funding, and I'm not quite sure why that happens. Sometimes they say the gate is broken, or there's other factors involved with the gate, security related issues. But I can talk to the president of the HOA again and see and have a status report and see why that is continuing to happen.
That'd be great, thanks.
Mhm.
Thank you. Don't believe we have any further questions for Ryan that I could see.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed one of my questions, Javier.
Okay, go ahead.
As the note taker, I did not understand where the parking lot is that we were talking about. Parking lot number 647. Can you give us the streets it's on?
Yeah, this would be, oh gosh, hold on. Sorry, 1 second. The street address is 47. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. The street address that I have for it is 474 West 8th Street. So that'd be 8th Street east of Pacific Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
No
It has 41 spaces.
Yes.
Any further questions? I don't see anybody. Well, thank you, Ryan, and I'm sure we'll be following up this issue because it's as more development come into town, it becomes more critical. So,
agreed. Thank you, Javier, and thank you, Diana, for inviting me.
Thank you.
Coming.
Thanks for the time. We'll move on to item number 4 on the agenda, which is consideration of CIS for Council File 22-0392, Metro Offsite Digital Signs, and Alec Norman will do a briefing on that. I see Alexander.
Can you hear me or?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. This is already a struggle right now. I'm gonna share my screen to show what the content is.
Yeah, your volume is a little low.
Okay, let's see. Okay, and if it will load, sorry, I'm working on a spare laptop. It's not gonna be the best technology setup right now. So, and my internet is not doing so well.
You want to just briefly talk about it, Alec? Oh, here we go.
Here we go, sorry. So basically this is a council file that was another one of the things addressing creating more digital billboards. In this case, it's creating a roughly I think it's like 45 or 47 new digital billboards on metro properties in LA. So this motion would be against the creation of more of these billboards that are being, the official thing is saying they're asking the city attorney and the planning department to create these offsite signs to be displayed on these structures. And basically the logic I have with being against it is that, well, besides it being digital billboards, like creating a nuisance, is that they have a lot of billboards that they currently aren't focusing on using right now. So instead of creating more billboards that we are already against in previous council files that we've submitted, we should focus on the ones that they already have. And there's also a driver distraction. I recently looked up a lot of different articles showing how they have created, just they have an increased chance of creating a driver distraction while driving, especially the ones that have the changing of the videos, since there's multiple things going on. And the other thing is that their EIR has not been completed. So if they were to lock into a contract, then they would be locked into it and can't make any changes that might come up, because there might be something that comes up in the EIR. And the last thing is just to reference if you remember the billboard right on North Gaffey as you get off the highway, it's kind of like that. In that case is what I'm referencing. If you can't get out of the contract, you have to leave the billboard up even though you don't really like it, right? So that's what I have to say on this council file.
Thanks, Alex. Do we have any questions for Alex?
Let me just point out that this passed already out of Northwest Committee, and that Coastal has done a somewhat similar CIS. So maybe Central wants to look at the both of those CISs.
Yes. Craig Goldfarb, you have a question?
More of a comment, because as this was reviewed in Northwest San Pedro committee, not by board, and we had discussed it, and I'm glad that Alexander looked at some of the data, but I also looked at the data, and as far as distractions, etc., the data was inconclusive. I have seen quite a number of these things, and I anecdotally, without any data, I haven't seen more accidents around these signs. But I did start thinking about what is the advantage of this. One is they're much more environmentally friendly. You're not printing up a lot of paper. You're not driving out there and putting those things up. They're being transmitted electronically. And then with the kiosk at the parking for Caltrans and stuff like that, it's been noted that you have advantageous that when people have interactions with these things, it increases ridership, which is one of the things we've been trying to do. So when people are, it always seems like when something like this comes out, instead of trying to suggest ways that we could positively influence this technology, like where Alexander points out that the signs change frequently, we should be working on, hey, let's say that you can't change a sign more than once every 2 minutes or something to that effect. I mean, I go by the signs at the Citadel quite frequently, and I don't see that disadvantage. So what instead of saying no to technology, we need to start looking at the technology and saying, how can we get this so it fits us better? Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Elisa Swanson, you have a comment?
I do. I kind of want to piggyback onto what Craig just mentioned. If this, and I apologize, I can't pull up the council file at this time, but if this does involve the transit kiosks, The presentation that we had on them is that they could serve as, they do have a digital component, but could serve as wayfinding kiosks. They will eventually be programmed to sell tickets. We get a lot of requests. We've sold tap cards at the chamber. People want to be able to have more access to be able to load tap cards or buy bus passes at these kiosks, which this is a future, my understanding in the presentation we had, that might be a future ability of the kiosk component of this. So Alex, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your presentation. Does this council file include those transit kiosks?
Most of, I think it was like a couple of them, but most of them are off-site. So it would be like something you would see over a highway. A lot of them were over the highway. So I was referencing most of those, which are big, large, and if you're on a highway, you're already getting lots of different, what's it called, stimuli already. So that's just another thing to add. So
The transit kiosks are in a different council file, Elise.
Oh, they are. Okay,
Yeah.
that's because I thought I heard the word kiosk. So I just, because there's a lot of interest in using those for wayfinding. So, okay, thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
I'm getting a bunch of silence here. Are we moving forward or am I not hearing anything?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, can we go to
Talking
the next item?
I've been muted. So I was just saying that I didn't see any further comments. So we'll move on to the next item. And thank you, Alexander. So the next item is update on possible action on Walker's Cafe. Emma,
Yeah, wait a
Rolf
second.
is here from Central.
Yeah, I'm promoting her to a panelist. Hold on.
Okay.
She's probably going to need to screen share.
There she is.
Hi, Emma.
Yes, hi. Thanks
Welcome.
for promoting me. It's nicer to be able to show you my actual face as I'm talking. Yeah, so I'm here with an update on Walkers that is at the moment not so great, unfortunately. So as I'm sure many of you know, Walkers is going through the landmarking process, and where we're at with that is it had its first 2 Cultural Heritage Commission hearings and got a unanimous yes vote both times, but it's been stuck in the queue for a plum date, the city's Planning and Land Use Management Committee. And there was a must act by for June 15th. And unfortunately that got pushed back. I know they have a significant backlog, but that's kind of, means we're still stuck in limbo as far as that's concerned. And in the meantime, it got bought by new owners, a property group out of Burbank called Prospect Group. I believe they closed in March. And initially they, appeared on the scene and promised the community that their interest was in reopening Walker's Cafe and keeping it as it was and leasing it out to an operator, for example, a local restaurateur. And, they said that to members of the community. They said that to me, having reached out to me as the person who's been spearheading the landmarking effort. And they said that to the press as well. But unfortunately, I've been receiving concerned reports from members of the community about construction happening on site, and they shouldn't be doing anything to begin with because it's a landmark. And so or at least it's going through the landmarking process. And when that is the case, there's an automatic freeze on demolitions and permits. But in addition to that, a community member filed a complaint after witnessing them doing what seemed to be quite invasive and substantial construction, something that, sort of seemed to exceed minor repairs. And an LADBS inspector came out, this was on June 14th or 15th, I believe, and they were issued a stop work order. But since then have continued to do work on the property. So that's obviously very worrying. They also haven't obtained any permits from AQMD. So we're dealing with a situation where they're basically acting in flagrant disregard of the city's processes that are in place. And we don't really know what's going on behind the security fence that they've put up. And additionally, I was contacted by somebody who owns an indie coffee shop in Long Beach, who had been in talks with them for some time about potentially leasing it and opening as an ancillary location. And he was very interested and very appreciative of what Walker's is. And he ultimately reached out to me and to a number of city staff members and said, I'm kind of concerned by what's going on because I don't get the sense that they're genuine. They quoted him an astronomical sum in monthly rent that certainly, doesn't enable anybody to make a fair go of running a business there. And in addition, they were willing to lease out to him the front building, but not the rest of the parcel. And he got the impression just from his conversations with them that they were more interested in potentially developing residential units in the back. So what we may be dealing with here is a bait and switch in terms of what their actual agenda is. And so all of that is really worrying. There's an LADBS investigation that's ongoing, and I was contacted by the inspector, and he said he would be going out to the property this week as well. But in the meantime, I've come here to you tonight to propose a draft CIS, urging the city to take action on this and urging various members from within the city family, including Ryan Ferguson, including Lambert Giesinger from the Office of Historic Resources, and also the neighborhood prosecutor and the LADBS inspector assigned to the case, to actually go down there and do a site visit and take stock of what's actually been going on. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can have a look at the document. Here we are. So this is, and so the council file that this would go into is pertains to Walker's as a property that's going through the landmarking process. That's why it has a council file number.
Why don't you read it, Emma? I think there are
You want me to read it out loud?
Can't see the screen perhaps, or like.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I know a couple of people have phoned in. All right, so here we go. On July 14th, Prospect Group, the new owners of Walker's Cafe at 700 West Paseo Del Mar in San Pedro, were issued a stop work order after Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety Inspector Andrew Bealey found them doing unpermitted work on the premises. Despite failing to obtain the required permits from LADBS or the Air Quality Management District for the work being done, and despite having been issued a stop work order, they have continued to do construction on site. The San Pedro neighborhood councils are extremely concerned about the condition of Walker's Cafe, a pending historic cultural monument and a resource of great significance to the community. We are looking for building safety to exercise the tremendous leverage they have to protect this resource. We ask the council office to review the situation on site with the building inspector assigned to the case, Andrew Bealey, along with the inspector's supervisor, as well as Councilmember Vizcaíno's Field Deputy Ryan Ferguson, Lambert Giesinger from the Office of Historic Resources, and the neighborhood prosecutor Khalil Rashid. Following the site visit, we ask that Ryan Ferguson attend our joint planning and land use committee meeting, as well as Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council's Coastline and Park Committee meeting, to report back and tell us what enforcement actions will be taken. Furthermore, we are extremely concerned about the fact that following 2 unanimous yes votes at the Cultural Heritage Commission hearings in January and March, Walker's Cafe remains stuck in limbo, awaiting a plum hearing date, while illegal and potentially irreversible work on the property is taking place. We urge the city to schedule a plum hearing at the next available date in August 2022. Because this is a serious issue that is unfolding quickly, we would like action taken within 30 days of receipt of this CIS.
Let's see, Pat Name, do you have a question?
I do. I like the CIS, but in addition, Emma, what is the status of their coastal development permit? This is in the coastal zone, and they should have applied for, and they should be needing a permit to make these changes to the property.
There is none.
Yeah. They haven't obtained permits from any of the relevant agencies, appears to be the situation.
Well, maybe you could take a look at that. In the past, if you did something in the coastal zone, it was a lot worse for you than it was with LADBS.
Robin, you had a further comment?
Yeah, I was going to also add that perhaps this should be copied to the Coastal Commission Enforcement Group, since this is in the dual coastal zone permit jurisdiction, and like Pat Nave just said, something like this is a pretty serious violation, especially in the coastal zone.
Their fines are $10,000 a day.
That's true. That's right.
Okay, yeah, that sounds
Big
definitely
numbers.
sounds like a good idea.
That might be convincing. Noel, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, before I make my comment, I would move that, well, we've got certainly a quorum here from Coastal. I would move that we adopt this CIS and move it forward, and we would need a second to do that. And then I'll make my comment.
Greg seconded.
Oh, okay, great.
Discussion.
So yeah, we can discuss it. Piggybacking on Pat and Robin, we are in the dual zone of the California Coastal Commission, which is the most restrictive place in the entire state to do any kind of development. And sometimes you can get coastal exemptions for certain kinds of things. It depends on what it is, but I'm the chair of the Coastline and Parks Committee of the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council, so people come to me with their discoveries and all of that sort of thing. And major plumbing work has been done, major electrical work has been done, windows have been added where there weren't windows before, major roof work has been done, major venting has been put in. I mean, it's like a lot of things have happened. So I think that it's extremely important that not only do we move this CIS forward and get it to the relevant city agencies, but also send it to the coastal commission so that it's on their radar about what's happening here. It's kind of like when you do something completely by the book, 100%, especially with a restaurant, and it's in the coastal zone. When it's perfect, from start to finish, it's probably about 2 years before you get done and ready to open and start serving people and stuff. Once you, just try to do all this unpermitted work and sneak around and do all these other kinds of things, then it can end up taking, years and years and years once the relevant agencies are unhappy that that's taken place. I know that there was a petition that Emma circulated into trying to figure out what the community pulse was for supporting Walker's Cafe, and she got over 3,000 signatures. A lot of the times when a petition goes out, you're lucky if you get a couple hundred signatures. The community's signed over 3,000 names to this petition wanting walkers to be walkers, and it's one of the oldest restaurants in Los Angeles. That's why it's been getting these unanimous votes for cultural monument designation. And from what we've heard, it seems like we've been sold a bill of goods by these folks. So we should get this CIS moving forward. I think it's very important.
Okay. Are you guys voting on that or?
Yeah, we can vote.
Yeah, or do we
Robin,
we want to hear what Pat and June and James have to say first?
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, and then we'll vote.
Okay. James Campo, you had a question or comment?
Thank you, Emma, for all your energy to this project. The work that they have done, would it disqualify them for any historical status? And perhaps that was the plan altogether by the owner that seems to be kind of slippery. So that's kind of my question with an add-on. Thank you.
So a property can be eligible for landmark status on a number of criteria, which is architectural significance, being associated with the lives of important people who are important to the city or state or country, and thirdly, sociocultural significance. And it was that third criterion that they considered walkers as being. So it's a landmark no matter what, from the standpoint of what it means to the community and what it's meant to the community historically, and the fact that it is a historic structure, as long as they don't pull the walls down. But that said, it obviously has these historic layers of significance that have it's this time capsule, and people have added to it over the years, and we don't know what elements of that may have been destroyed at this point. So that's really worrying. I wouldn't say that at this point that it jeopardizes landmark status, but it's definitely, a reason to be extremely vigilant and to escalate this to the relevant authorities as quickly as possible, and for them to take stock of what's going on. But building and safety does have a lot of power to enforce. It's just, it takes a little bit of a community push often to kind of hold them accountable and make clear that this site matters to an above average extent. But, theoretically, they could be made to undo the work that they've done. But it's just a matter of getting everybody within the city to pay attention to this sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Gregory, you had a question, comment?
Yeah, I did. Do we know when the next Planning and Land Use Committee's scheduled meeting is? It just occurs to me that if we want to get this on for August, and we want to make sure
It's
our
going to be
CIS is-
Coastline and Parks, because Coastline and Parks does development in the dual zone, and that's going to be August 3rd.
Okay.
Well, we're going to vote on it right now, but we can take it to your committee too.
No, I'm not talking about the committee. I mean the
You
city
mean the
council.
You and Plum.
Oh, city council.
Maybe Elise knows. Do you happen to know, Elise?
I don't have it.
I don't know off the top of my head. I know they're back in session in August, though.
They're already back in session this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, our board meeting is until the 22nd. So I just encourage everyone to just keep moving on your complaints and follow up in the meantime. So that's almost a month from now.
Yeah, that was my concern.
We could potentially hold a special meeting just to deal with this issue and make it lickety split and get it done earlier.
Yeah, we might have to.
That would be great. I mean, I really think time is of the essence because obviously the stop work order hasn't stopped them.
Pat Name, do you have another comment?
Yeah, this is kind of a law and order CRIS. I wanted to make a motion on behalf of Northwest, with like Coastal's motion. Can do it one after the other or at the same time, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, Pat, let's wait till Coastal finishes and then we'll take Northwest.
Okay.
Part.
Yeah, let me adjust my camera. Coastal's board meeting is on the 15th of August, which is the third Monday because August 1st is a Monday.
Oh, okay. Right.
So I just want to make sure everybody knows that. So hopefully we'll have time to comment.
Yeah.
If you're, I would say that if you're, obviously I would be very enthusiastic if you were to have a special meeting to get this sent in faster. If that isn't possible, we probably should adjust the time frame within which we're asking for a plum date, because we can't ask for a date in August when it's like August 20th by the time the CIS goes in.
Yeah, Central's planning meeting is next week, so we'll be right at the beginning of the month.
Great.
So does Coastal want to take a vote so we can move on?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple more questions.
Oh.
Let's see. Siggy Merkert.
Have they been invited to do a presentation at one of the meetings? Our meetings?
Not formally, but I will say that I set up a meeting with them and the Office of Historic Resources and Ryan Ferguson about a month ago, maybe slightly more, because they had reached out to me and said, we normally do residential properties. We appreciate all the help we can get. So I said, I've been talking to a number of people within the city about this for some time, and I can, I'm happy to sort of pass along those contacts. So I had a meeting with them and Lambert Giesinger and Ryan Ferguson, and during that meeting, Lambert explicitly suggested to them that they take the lead in reaching out to the neighborhood councils as part of engaging the community, and it's clear that they haven't done that.
Thank you.
Craig Goldfarb.
Hi, Emma, that was great what you're doing. Just to warn you and everybody here, you need to put a lot of pressure on the planning department. Don't wait for the CISs or anything else. I work with these people that do the same thing. They figure, hey, we'll go ahead and do it. Once it's done, it's fait accompli. And you know, fines, everything else won't impress them, they'll go back and get them reversed. So just keep on, and you know, you might want to see if you can, if you got that many signatures, maybe you can get a protest in front of it, draw some attention to it. Because CISs are really great, but I don't think they, by the time anything happens. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really important intel. I agree.
Yeah, and I would just, you know, like to encourage everybody here to kind of, you know, follow up and keep the pressure on with, you know, whether it be reaching out to building and safety or the neighborhood prosecutor who I've reached out to, but I haven't been able to hear, haven't heard back, and to the council office as well, just asking, you know, what's going on? Is there any news? Like the more eyes are watching this property, and the more the city is aware as well that people really care about this issue, that the sooner it will be seen to.
So Coastal has a motion and a second, and so I'm going to take a roll call vote. Noel?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Elise?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Alan? Oh, he must have dropped off. Ziggy?
Yes.
And Robin, it's unanimous. Thank you.
So for Northwest, I think Pat was making a motion.
Motion made.
Hmm?
I make the motion.
You moved approval?
Yes.
Is there a second from Northwest?
I'll second.
Who said I'll second?
What was the motion?
Yeah, what's the motion?
Mark Ashfield. Brian had just stated what the motion was. It was to approve the CIS.
Is what?
To adopt the CIS.
Oh,
Same
Rock,
motion.
Rock seconded, I think.
Rock seconded.
I did. Whatever Pat said, I seconded.
Okay, so let me see. Any other comments from Northwest before we vote? Do I see any? No. Okay, so Pat Nave,
Yes.
Rock,
Yes.
Chuck Hart,
Yes.
Linda Alexander,
I saw her lips.
sorry about that. Yes.
Alec. Alex still
Yes.
here?
Yes, if you can
Yes,
hear me.
gotcha. Craig Goldfarb
Yes.
and Diana votes yes. Did I miss anyone?
Yourself. Oh, Diana.
I did. I voted yes.
There you go.
So it's unanimous from, and we'll take that forward to our board as well.
Do we have a copy of that? Did you send it to us already?
It's in the agenda packet, and I believe I sent it out to you today.
Okay.
I have a copy too.
All right, great.
And I actually read it, Diana, so I want you to know.
Then it was sent out if he actually read it.
Step in the right direction.
Great.
I do have a quick update on when Plum meets.
What is that?
Yeah, based on their regular schedule, they would be meeting at 2 p.m. on August the 2nd and August the 16th. And we'll find out whether whether they meet or cancel. But August 2nd, August 16th would be the next two regularly scheduled Plum committee.
The August 2nd is filled up, so the 16th might be the possible chance.
Possibly, or maybe the next one.
Yeah.
Well, Central could vote on if somebody wants to make a motion.
For Central?
Yes.
Oh, I'll make a motion that we support the CIS for Walker's Cafe.
Very good. Can we get a second? Frank, is that you?
I'll second.
Siggy, very well. Okay, so we'll take a vote. Frank?
Yes, I vote yes.
Okay. Siggy,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Okay, So we'll move it on. Hopefully we can get ahead of the meeting.
Unanimous from all three committees. How about that?
Thank you all for your support. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Emma.
Appreciate all your hard work, Emma.
Thank you,
That's
thank you for your
amazing.
work. It's
Yeah.
important. Very important.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Hopefully I'll have a more positive update next time. Fingers crossed.
Hope so.
Yeah, Emma, if you could maybe update us for the Central Committee next week. We'll just bring up whatever new information you can have.
Did you say you wanted me to tune into the central meeting?
No, I was just saying if you could share
If
any
there's
new
any news.
information, we could
Sure.
share it.
Yeah,
at the
will do.
meeting.
I can't. I'm not going to be in town next week, so I can't attend the meeting. But I'll make sure you
No,
know.
yeah, if you could just share the information,
Yeah,
we'll make
will
it
do.
public.
Will
Thank
do.
you. Very good. So we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is updates and other items of interest to the committee. Diana, do you have?
I have a couple of updates. First one is to let everyone know that in the next couple of days, you should get a new Zoom invite for the joint committee meetings. This new invite will be good for the rest of the year. So if you don't receive it, let me know.
Okay.
It'll have a new meeting sign in on it. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the connectivity plan. The proposed contract with SWA for the connectivity plan is going to the Board of Harbor Commissioners tomorrow morning at their 9 a.m. meeting. Whoops. How did I do this? I want to share my screen here if I can. If my may not let me. My computer may not let me. I'm having some computer problems. Okay, let's try this again. Share. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay. Whoops. No, that's the wrong document. Let's try again. Okay, I can't get that one to close. Stop share. We'll try this. Okay, now my other one's locked. Okay, well, I guess I'll just do this without that. Anyway, so it's going tomorrow at 9 a.m. And I forwarded to the committee members a copy of the agenda item and also put it in the agenda packet for tonight's meeting. And the statement of work for the contractor is Exhibit A in Transmittal 3, if you're trying to find it in that document. I also put it on our Northwest website. So what they have, they will be having 3 public meetings, an initial workshop to introduce the project and its goals to the community, with some preliminary questions for the community feedback. Second meeting would be an open house where the community can look at the preliminary plans and provide input. And the third opportunity will be after the plan is presented to the Board of Harbor Commissioners, there will be a community comment period. So we'll have 3 different opportunities to look at and comment on it. The connectivity elements that they're going to be looking at, they're looking at connectivity within the waterfront itself, connectivity with the adjacent neighborhood, and then including the Wilmington waterfront and the greater region. The connectivity modes they're looking at include but are not limited to motorized connectivity, public transit, rubber tire trolley, transportation network company, non-motorized connectivity, bicycle, scooter, pedestrian, sidewalks, crosswalks, landscaping, etc., and water connectivity, such as a water taxi and recreational boats. In terms of the actual deliverables in the contract, the main deliverable is a draft San Pedro waterfront connectivity plan. And they will have chapters dedicated to, the first one is on the connectivity elements, one on pilot projects, which is kind of interesting. These are some quick wins that could be implemented immediately, and I think are going to be implemented maybe during the process of developing the plan. Examples were something like a pop-up bike lane or colored crosswalks. The next chapter would be the strategy for implementation, which they also referred to as a roadmap for investment, with short and long-term programs and projects with a focus on things that could be done in the next 5 years. It would have a timeline, the responsible entity, and potential funding sources. There would be a chapter on the wayfinding program, one on public art as a larger attraction, one on open space utilization and activation, one on programming concepts and opportunities, and the last one would be on development opportunities and case studies. So that's in the contract that is going to the Board of Harbor Commissioners tomorrow for their approval. Frank had asked me about an update on the Front Street Harbor Boulevard beautification. The project is currently out to bid. The port anticipates that construction will begin in mid-October and should take about 9 months, with an opening planned for next summer. Yeah, this has been going on since what, 2003, 2004, something like that.
Wow.
They're only going to do the work on the north side of the street, the China shipping side. It will connect the gateway fountains along the waterfront to North Pacific on the other end. There'll be a plaza area on the corner of Front Street and at the corner of Front and Pacific, and a 22-foot wide landscaped area leading to the water fountain. And it will include a multi-use path for biking and walking. So that's that one, but they still, I don't think, have gone out to bid yet for North Gappy, which is actually an older project, for the last phase of North Gappy. They had been saying they'd go out to bid in August, so we're watching. The only other thing I had was I noticed that the project at 335 North Gappy, the 3-story, 23 units, it looks like they have got their building permits. And I actually noticed today that there was a building and safety van parked out there. So maybe we'll see something happen on that project soon. That's the end of my updates. Maybe somebody else has some other updates or questions.
I see Pat has a question.
A further update on the connectivity plan. As I read it, it looks to me like the scope of work includes nothing south of 22nd Street. So the folks from Coastal, Cabrillo Beach, Point Ferment Park, and all of that doesn't seem to be in their scope of work for this contractor or for this consultant. Maybe this could have been caught if they'd included the neighborhood councils in their reviews and things like that in their composition of the consulting agreement. They didn't. So, you know, Doug and James and June and Greg and let's see who else is there, Noel, Robin, stuff like that. Take a look at that scope of work and see what you think.
Yeah, I think you're going to want to comment on it to either the Board of Harbor Commissioners or at the first their first public meeting would be another opportunity to comment on that.
Probably better to do it before they sign the contract.
Well, the contract doesn't limit it.
Yeah, the way things are going, I'm not sure Coastal wants to actually be connected. So
Well, I don't think it limits it, but it doesn't expand it. I mean,
yeah.
Well, it's very explicit. It says 22nd Street at the south end. So.
Oh, okay, maybe okay. So
interesting.
I don't know if Elise knows anything about that.
I do not. I'm going to look at it.
Okay.
Robin, you had comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to make an announcement. Some of you may know the appeal hearing for 2111 Pacific. The project at 2111 Pacific is being heard by the Planning Land Use Management Committee of the City Council next Tuesday, 2 p.m. I don't have the agenda yet, but as soon as I do, I'll be posting it, and which has all the instructions on how to attend the hearing on Zoom or by telephone. And I'll post that on the CSPNC website. All 3 neighborhood councils, CIS is in that support the appeal. And I encourage any and all of you to attend that hearing, whether just to listen or also comment.
What time was the meeting at, Robin?
Tuesday, August 2nd at 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
And I'll post that Plum agenda where it has the links and the telephone numbers and everything. I'll post that on our website.
Thank you. Siggy, you have a comment?
Hey, yes, thank you. So just curious, I know there's been some chatter around the old Cetacean building in Point Fermin Park. I'm still away in Croatia, so I haven't had my ear to the ground, but is anything actually going on with that? Is it being considered for a new cafe or something? Because I know there's been some chatter about it.
Noel, do you know anything?
Yeah. The short answer to that question is that they're probably years away from actually doing anything with it. There's absolutely no concrete plans at all from the Department of Recreation and Parks. There are various people in the community with different ideas about what they might like to imagine happening over there. And that's great. You know, we're a very diverse community with a lot of different opinions, and you know, it's always great to discuss every possible option. Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council did come up with a motion in our meeting last month, expressing an urgency for the Department of Recreation and Parks to assess what needs to be done right away to repair the building. And to start looking for funds to go ahead and get that going, because it's an important building and it's had a lot of historical significance over the years. And also that the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council should be the primary go-between between the community and the Department of Recreation and Parks, and that we would do a lot of outreach to the community to get opinions and kind of get our pulse on what the community is thinking that they'd like to see. And the building has historically been used for community benefit, and we emphasize that we felt the Department of Recreation and Parks should continue that designation so that it would be used for community benefit, for example, rather than private benefit. Anyway, that's the gist of the motion.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any further items? Diana, just a question. Do we know what happened to the restaurant on Gaffey, the Hawaiian restaurant that started construction and then it just stopped?
It ran into some problems, but it's, I think, resumed now. The problems I was told by the council office have been worked out, but I don't know what the problems were that they ran into.
Okay, yeah, I just kept seeing graffiti on the building and nothing had been done about it, so just wondering. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment on items not on the agenda. Do we have any volunteers? No. Okay, then we will adjourn the meeting, and our next meeting is Wednesday, August 24th. So thanks everyone for being here and participating and giving your time, and we will see you then.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Good night.
Bye, all.
Well, they were out in the garage.
Good night, everybody.